Hello everybody and welcome back to Victoria 3, where we are currently on speed 1. Let's change that. Okay, there we go. That's going to be a little bit better. And I don't know why we were on speed 1. That's weird. Maybe I accidentally hit the 1 key at some point like that? I don't know. Who knows? For now, we're going to continue on speed 4. So this is looking fine. We're going to privatize this railway once we get the funding. And that'll happen eventually. The real question is, are we going to want to be pausing our construction anytime soon? We'll find out. Of course, we're going to want to bump our taxes back up eventually. I want to say not now, though. Not quite yet. We want to bump these taxes up probably, well, it kind of depends, doesn't it? It depends on how long on this railway. I think now is actually a reasonable time. Let's go ahead and do that. That will slow down our running out of gold reserves. Of course, this is going to definitely impact our standard of living. Not ideal in that regard, but for the moment, things will be fine on that front. So we'll continue our construction here. We've got 14 weeks on our power plants in Wisconsin. We've, of course, got our power plant in Michigan finished. So that looks good. And the reason why I cranked the taxes there was because I think that boosted up the amount going into the investment pool, which means that our railway being privatized would be faster. I still think that we probably want to end up going into debt here in order to continue to construct. The debt will be mostly repaid by the privatization of this railway, right? That would be the overall concept anyway. So let's take a quick peek at our population. Okay, that's definitely going up at about 40K per annum. Not too bad. And radicalism is on the rise, which isn't shocking considering we just cranked the taxes. The trade route exporting artillery is inactive. I'm going to leave that be, I think, for the time being. Let's check in on revenue here. Okay, now it's no longer inactive. It's just negative. That's fine. So fish is absolutely something we need. Dyes we produce domestically. So let's get rid of that for now. Otherwise, let's check some of these export markets and see what we might have here. Fertilizer to the British market is barely positive for the time being. Let's go ahead and do that. Grain to the American market sounds good. And then we've got potentially iron to the Confederate market. And what was this? Tobacco? Yeah, nothing good in tobacco right now. So that looks good for the moment. We were briefly negative in hardwood. Okay. That should get taken care of. You can see here we are currently in debt. That's absolutely understood. We should be able to harvest that debt out of our investment pool eventually. So let's get this power plant in Wisconsin finished, and then we might consider pausing construction. The main question would be when. And yeah, our radicalism is definitely ticking up here. That's not a surprise, given our taxes. So that's absolutely understood. Do we want to credit the industrialists? No. This is a victory for the workers for now. So we have an election coming through here. This is not surprising at all in terms of result. We're fine with, honestly, both of these. So that seems decent for the moment. Sure, this is fine. Okay, so the power plant in Wisconsin is finishing up on this week. That looks good. I'm going to pause construction now. So we're going to have to pay for one more week of construction because it's offset by 1 week, which I still think is strange, but it is offset by 1 week, probably to try to make it more difficult to game. So that is fine. We did manage to get 35% done with the power plant in Indiana. So we're making a good amount of income here, 12.4K right now. We're about 10 weeks in debt. Cool. That looks good. And we're going to get this privatization finished up very, very soon. So that will pay for our debt. And then I do want to get back to construction soon. Very soon. So we'll get there. That'll be fine. The standard of living is honestly not too bad. So for the time being, I think this is acceptable. And yeah, there's that privatization. You can see we got about 100K in gold reserves. So that's looking good. And what do we get here? Liberal Party momentum? Sure. I guess that's fine. We don't really need Liberal Party momentum, but we don't really need Radical Party momentum either. Legally speaking, we're in a pretty okay spot. The main issue at this point is I'd like to move off of census suffrage into universal suffrage, and eventually I'd like to come off of per capita taxation. Eventually. But I don't think these are even useful at this moment. Actually, proportional would be an increase. Graduated would not. Okay, so we could go for this. We would need... Who supports this? The trade unions. Okay, so that would not be a terrible thing, actually. On this election, we could maybe move the trade unions into power. And let's go ahead and resume our construction. Let's see where that puts us financially. I mean, plus 14.3 is pretty heavy, so that looks good. Minus 2.78. This isn't real. This is going to go down more than this. But by how much? Yeah, this is about right. So this is about where I expect to be. That seems correct. So over here in Wisconsin, we did finish up our power plant here. So we don't currently have very many people employed here because there's not really much call for it, right? So maize farms don't use electricity. Logging camps, however, this can move to electric sawmills. So that'll be fantastic. The paper mills can move to paper bleaching, which they should have been already. We should check in on the paper mills in other locations. The synthetics plants here, they can't go to rayon yet. The tooling workshops could go to machined steel tools. That would cause rubber issues. And I think that we don't need that right now. Assembly lines, though, that we can absolutely go to. So that looks good, and our motor industries can go to assembly lines as well. So that'll be much better productivity there. I want to check in on our other paper mills, which we had one here, and we did crank this up. I believe we had one in Indiana as well. Let's see here. Yes, this paper mill. This is on, yeah, we want to move that to paper bleaching. So that'll be fine. And then we have a synthetics plant in Ohio for now. Yeah, that's absolutely okay. Beyond that, everything should be fine unless this furniture manufactory can move, but it can't just yet. So for now, that seems okay. So we'll get that going, and that should be more paper production. And more general production up here in Wisconsin. So we should see the price of tools drop eventually, once we see the price of electricity get handled. So that's going to take a little bit of time. We're definitely going to need to have these power plants work up a little bit. So that seems okay. Price of electricity here is going to be expensive for now. War propaganda has been unlocked. Okay, neat. And we're working on an explosives factory in Wisconsin. Okay, so that funding is going to come available soon enough. That's going to be in a few weeks here. We have 122K, so like 10-ish weeks of construction here. Okay, so this is going to get going eventually, and that will make things better for us. Of course, we have some construction efficiency penalties in Indiana and Minnesota, and that's understood. We just got art silk, so we can now get rayon going, which means that we can get our own source of silk. Do we use silk? That's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that right now. So that's a hard maybe. Let's check in here, and our furniture, or rather our textile mills, could have some amount of craftsman sewing. They could. If we did that, we would need silk. As of right now, we would produce less dye and more silk. I think for the moment, this isn't necessary. Like, we don't even have all that much for demand for luxury clothes, I don't think. So let's check in on our goods here and see what we have for luxury clothes. Pop needs of 11.9. Okay, so the only textile mill we have is this one level in Minnesota. We could do this and deal with that. And then the synthetics plants, we have a level in a number of locations. So here in Indiana only, we could produce rayon, something like this. That will get us some amount of silk coming in. I don't know if this will be enough, but we'll see. So let's see what happens here. Yeah, price spikes, but we'll keep an eye on that. That may or may not end up being a thing. No, we don't want to put money into this. Get out of here. Okay, so that seems relatively fine for now. Our investment pool here is at 68%. Okay. Yeah, I think going into debt here is fine. I want to continue this construction, for sure. I want to continue this construction as long as we can, for sure. Getting power plants online in each of our states, getting a level of electrification is a big deal. So let's continue to work on that. We've got 6 weeks on our power plant in Indiana. After that, we can start thinking about some other situations. I do want to check in on our synthetic plant here. So this synthetic plant is producing some amount of silk. We're off of the input goods shortage now, and we've got a lot of additional silk that we can produce here. This is at 52%, but it's still at 75% in the overall market. Okay, so hiring in more people here would be useful. We shouldn't need more silk than that. Okay. So that looks good. If we check in on the market here and we go by balance here, we can see we need a fair amount more steel. We also could use more clothing. So more clothing production would be good. A textile mill somewhere. Okay, so where do we have the most job seekers? Wisconsin has about 50K, 102K in Michigan. So I think that we should probably consider putting in a textile mill in Michigan here. So something like that. And I'd like to actually move this up to be here. I want to get that going. And in Michigan, I want the production methods to be prioritizing non-luxury clothing like this. So that should deal with that requirement. We're going to have this power plant completed in Indiana here in 2 weeks. And it looks like we had a privatization event, so that was a lot of money going into our gold reserves. I like it. A hardwood shortage, but we do have hardwood production, so we just need to ramp that up a little bit. This is our logging camp in somewhere. I don't actually know where. One of these logging camps produces hardwood. It's this one in Minnesota. Okay, so we need more people working here. That's all this means. And that'll balance itself out. So that looks good for now. We are working on this textile mill in Michigan. That's going to be done in 16 weeks. We just finished our power plant in Indiana. So that, of course, means that we need to go through and make sure that all of these that can use electrical production methods are. So that is just the electric fences for our livestock ranches, but this logging camp can go up to electric sawmills. This coal mine, there's no electric production methods that we can utilize here. The munitions plant can go to assembly lines. The paper mill is already on paper bleaching and rotary valve engine, so that's as good as it gets. The synthetics plant is good. Yeah, we're good on this fertilizer plant. Nothing more that we can do with explosives right now. An arts academy. Hilarious. That's, I guess, fine. So that's okay for the time being here in Indiana. That's all of the electricity that we can consume right now. So you can see we're going to have some electricity shortages here. That's understood. We just need to hire this in and find an equilibrium point. So that's absolutely fine. Minus 6.84. This is probably fake. Yeah, 11.9. That's still pretty okay. I don't mind that. So we're getting this textile mill, and then this power plant is being worked on. Behind that, I want to think, what other things do we actually have significant need of? Well, steel. Steel is a big one. So an additional steel plant may not be a bad idea. Yes. I'm going to queue that up. I queued it up at the beginning, but I don't actually want it at the beginning. I want it here. What else do we have significant need of? We're working on textiles. Tools. Tools is something that is still a pretty big need. So tooling workshops here are maxed out. And then we also have a tooling workshop over here in Michigan. Is this the only places where we have tooling workshops? I'm not sure. Let's double check here. I want to go into industry, tooling workshops. Yeah, Wisconsin and Michigan are the only two levels. So I think expanding the one in Michigan makes the most sense right now. So let's get that in there. And I'm going to move this down to be here, like that. What else do we need? Well, taking a look here, I mean, automobiles. So let's take a look at where we might want to build another motor industry. The answer is probably another level in Wisconsin, honestly. So I queued that up. That's at the bottom, right down here. So we've just got the power plants interspersed like that. So we're going to keep working on the power plants, and that should be absolutely fine. So all of these are things that we need to increase our production of. These are not things that we're lacking production on. We have domestic production of almost everything we need. Almost. Not fish. We should have production of fish. We should be able to fish in the Great Lakes, but much to my chagrin, we cannot. I happen to know that there are huge fishing industries in the Great Lakes. This is a real thing. We should be able to do this. Alas, we cannot. We have access to Lake Superior. We have access to Lake Michigan. What is this one? Huron? I forget what this one is. We also have access to, I think this one's Erie. I'm a little fuzzier on these out over here. I don't live in that area. Okay, so at this point, our standard of living is pretty good, actually. I don't hate that. Our main issue is our lower strata standard of living. That's mostly due to taxes, and that's absolutely understood. But dropping the price of textiles will significantly help them. They are probably spending quite a bit of their money on clothing right now, if I had to guess. Yeah, 22% of their income is being spent on clothing. So dropping that would be good. Dropping the price of grain would also be useful. I'm wondering, yeah, we could probably do that. The price of grain isn't too bad, though. It's already at 23% below base price. So that seems fine. I think the real target here really does need to be the price of clothing. So that is indeed what we are actively working on right now. That looks great. So we're going to be working on expanding a glassworks in Indiana. That's fine by me. We could definitely use some additional glass production. I don't mind that. Our trade route here is inactive. I don't really care. That seems fine. This export route of iron we could get rid of, and this fertilizer and this paper import route, we should absolutely get rid of that. The fish has to remain. We don't domestically produce fish. I really wish we did. We should. We should domestically produce fish. So at this point, we're currently at minus 135 on this wood export route. I think getting rid of that is fine. We are working up our domestic demand for wood. Oh, look at this. There's a maize farm in here. That's interesting. I guess it reevaluated and went for a maize farm. That's good. I like that. Dropping the price of corn, or, well, it produces grain. So dropping the price of grain would be absolutely great. Maize is, of course, a form of corn. It's like almost not exactly a pre-domesticated form of corn. It's definitely been domesticated for a long time, but, like, modern corn is different. It's a whole thing. So for now, that's absolutely fine. We see a privatization of a power plant in India. So we can keep building like this for a while. We're currently building our power plant in Minnesota. That's okay. So I want to check in on this textile mill that we just put in here in Michigan, and we should be seeing that this is quite productive, at least for now, and this should start to drop the price of clothing on our market. The primary issue here, of course, is availability, and we just need to increase production of clothing. 10% throughput here. Because 10% from Michigan. From industrial organizers. Okay, yeah, that'll do it. So that looks good, and we're currently making a pretty decent amount of money. Our investment pool is negative while doing this, so I think we'll just continue to bank money for now, because our investment pool isn't going to be running forever. That's for sure. And there, you can see that the productivity is beginning to drop off here. So that should indicate that the United Indian market price of clothing is dropping, and that should be good for our standard of living here. Yeah, clothing is down to 19.9%. Now, we're taxing tobacco, and they're also paying an average of 28.1% of their income in taxes. That's not great for them. But, I mean, it's good for us. So we're going to continue doing that for now. This is absolutely fine. Although, now that I think about it, we probably should have cut taxes a little bit while we had that privatization going. But now it's too late. So this seems good for the moment. This power plant in Minnesota is going to finish in 7 weeks, allowing us to bring our electrification online in Minnesota. That's going to be very good for us, of course. And I want to check in on our trade routes here. So, yeah, those are fine for the moment. I want to check these. Ooh, we could do some good export routes here. for paper. Okay, not that one, but good paper exports. Confederate wood export, I like it. No good sulfur export. This actually, the American market is good here too, at least for the moment. Okay, we could also do a porcelain export. Sure, that's fine for now. We'll probably get rid of those later. But for now, that looks good. Okay, fantastic. So we can see that our GDP is up to 4.5 billion. We're negative in our bureaucracy. We do have a minus 5% timed modifier, and that's probably going to go away soon. 23 months, so that's going to be a little while. Noted. A lot of this is just our trade routes, and that's absolutely understood. So that seems okay for now. We're about to finish up our power plant in Minnesota, and yes, this is going to give us a little bit of tax waste. That's understood. We can see we're not getting 2.7k in taxes right now. Most of this is due to radicalism, although that radicalism is starting to trend downward, so that looks good. But there's also our negative bureaucracy, and for the moment, I'm not going to deal with that. So this power plant in Minnesota just finished. That, of course, means that we need to go through our production methods here in Minnesota. Maize farms don't have anything. Railways, they don't have anything for now. So that seems good. This logging camp is absolutely going to hop over to electric sawmills at this moment, and that will boost its productivity significantly. Sulfur mine and iron mine, they don't have anything to be electrified. But the textile mill here, it does. We need electrical capacitors for both of these production methods, so we can't do anything more there, but that seems okay for now. The synthetic plant could go to rayon. I think that would be an overproduction of silk, possibly. Actually, it might not be. Let's go ahead and do that for now and see how that sits. We don't actually have that much here in Minnesota that can be electrified, though. It's mostly just that logging camp. So that's fine. We'll find an equilibrium here. So that looks good. We'll produce additional hardwood in particular from that. So that is not a bad thing. There's an electricity shortage running in Minnesota right now. Steel and tools are both considered expensive, and there's actually electrical capacitors coming right through. So that gives us new production methods for our textile mills and our explosives factories. So let's go ahead and get both of those in here. So explosives factories exist in Indiana and Michigan. We'll move both of them down to brine electrolysis, and that seems absolutely wonderful. And then for our textile mills, all of these are going to go to electric sewing machines and automatic power looms. Yes, I'm aware that that might cause some problems. I think we'll have an issue with tooling, and we do have this tooling workshop here. We could swap that to happen before this steel mill, and I think that's not a terrible concept. Oh, hey, we hit 15 in our standard of living. That's neat. So that seems good. We're going to get working on our tooling workshop in Michigan for now, because I do think the price of tools and, well, actually, steel is still more expensive. Let's give this a week tick and see. 52.4. Price of steel is falling. Price of tools is rising. I think for the time being, we'll keep it like this. So that seems fine for now. Our power plant in Illinois is a ways out, and that's absolutely fine. We're going to see a privatization of a power plant in Indiana next. Okay, so that's going to give us a good amount of gold reserve. I don't mind that. The party will never end. Yes. Beautiful. So we're going to get some loyalists out of that. Cool. So we're currently about 14 weeks away from this tooling workshop coming online in Michigan, and that will be a good thing. Now, do we have another source of rubber? Because we have to import rubber. And the question is, we can import it from the American market. So if that's the case, then I want to see about moving our tooling workshops. Or arms industries should be on repeating rifles and assembly lines. Yeah, that's the thing that should be the case. I want to see about our tooling workshops going to machined steel tools. So something like this. This is going to tank the price of wood and be a lot more rubber. It's also going to use less oil. And oddly, less electricity. Okay. The more tools production would be nice. I think for the moment, I'm not going to go to that. The source of rubber is the main concern there. And that's definitely a big concern. I'm very concerned about rubber. So that's absolutely understood. We're going to get another tooling workshop built in Michigan instead for now, and I am concerned about our negative bureaucracy right now, which reminds me, I believe we could take up another level of home affairs. Yeah, but we don't have the bureaucracy required for that right now. So that's absolutely fine for this moment. It is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to continue to get this economy squeezed for every little bit we can. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.